saying like what you just said is what most people say,
Mm-hmm.
or a lot of people say. They say, you know, some version of, well, I want to make sure I retire at a normal time, or a relatively normal time, or a good age. But what is a good age? And what is a normal time? Other than what we've been conditioned to believe is a normal time based on what our parents and grandparents have done. But we are not our parents and grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what they did and it worked for them, fantastic. And if that's what you end up doing and it works for you, also fantastic. But we need to make it our own. We have to internalize it.
Mm-hmm.
To say, you know, I want to make sure I retire by age 65 or 67 or 60. Why? Is it because that's a number you've been told, or is it something that you've internalized and then brought out to say, in my heart of hearts or deep down, you know, I know that I want to do what I'm doing until I'm 60 years old and then stop.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stop, then I'll just hang out. In reality, that's not what most people end up doing.
Right.
Some do, but that's because they're miserable on a daily basis. They don't like what they're doing for income.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't necessarily have to be passionate about what you're doing for income, but you shouldn't dread going in to work on Monday.
Absolutely.
And I've been there. You know, I've been in situations too often where I dreaded going in, or stressed, or I would have panic attacks at night because it was overwhelming. And it took me probably too long to figure out that that was no way to go about living life. But fortunately, during that time, I saw enough people who didn't have that experience, where they actually enjoyed going to what they were doing on Monday because it had purpose to it. It wasn't to fill someone else's pockets. Sure, it was filling their own, but that wasn't what was driving them to go there. It was the impact that they could have on the world, whatever it is. And a lot of the reading I've been doing lately is research pointing to that exactly. Really, the way to make it in this world is to get away from self-service and push yourself to do something that's for other people. Mm-hmm. So discover a problem and help solve it. Not with that selfish intent of, you know, what can I go out and make a bunch of money doing? I don't think a lot of people who start businesses that way or go into careers that way end up being very happy. And they end up being the people who say, yeah, I can only do this until I'm 60 or I'm 65, mm-hmm. because their bodies just can't handle it. Their brains can't handle it beyond that. And honestly, they can't handle it nearly that long. They just keep pushing themselves and pushing themselves because we're taught that that's how you get ahead. Just outwork everybody else. Work more hours. Work 100 hours if you have to. Do it every week. And someday, maybe you can drop down to 80, then maybe 70, and then maybe 60. And now suddenly you're 65 or 60 or 67, and you're too tired, just stop, because you've made all this money and now you can finally enjoy it. Well, you're talking about a future that may never come. Mm-hmm. So why sacrifice everything for something that may never happen? And this is different than talking about like following your passion and sacrificing everything to follow your passion that may never happen. That you should do, because if you're truly passionate about it, you'll find a way to make it work. But no one's really passionate about retirement. Retirement's become a default state where it's, well, I'm 60 and I have enough money in the bank. That's just what you do. You retire. But I've also seen it the other way, where people are 60, 65, and 70, and they don't want to retire.
Grandparents.
It happens, see? And you've seen it. But we don't always recognize it when we see it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we're so conditioned this way that when we see people working in their 70s, we assume it's not by choice. We assume it's because they have to. Mm-hmm. A lot of them don't. Some of them do. Actually, probably most of them do, because we're living longer and longer. And unfortunately, the generation that's there right now, they didn't know any better. Because their parents, when they didn't live as long, But more often than not, they had pensions. In between their pensions and Social Security, that their retirements were funded. Now, the generation that's there now largely doesn't have those same resources, and they didn't know how much they needed to save to get to that point. So they do actually have to keep working. But there are some out there who are doing it by choice, because maybe it's a business that they're building, or they've built and they love and they're passionate about it, and they want to continue to lead it or at least be a part of it. Or maybe they're doing something, maybe they made most of their money or earned most of their money doing something else that was super stressful until they couldn't do it anymore. And then they got into something that wasn't earning them quite as much, but they like it. Maybe they're working at the zoo, or they're a greeter at Walmart, or they're working at a grocery store and doing seminars on healthy eating, because it's kind of like their gift to the world. It's their legacy. So why stop? I like to think of the traditional notion of retirement as a fallback option. So we all get to the point where we can't work anymore. And it's not our choice. It's we die or our health declines and it's not healthy for us to continue to work. The traditional version of retirement I view as that, well, I just can't work anymore and it's not my choice. Personally, I'd much rather have the choice to continue or not continue. And if I'm in that position where I have that choice to continue or not continue, I want it to be because I'm either continuing something that I want to be doing or not continuing because I want to spend my time doing something else. And maybe it doesn't earn me income because maybe it's spending time with grandkids or kids or traveling the world or doing service work. But I don't want to exhaust myself to get to that point. I want to work hard, but I want to work hard towards something that brings me peace. Something that I can look at my kids and say, here's what daddy does. Isn't this neat? Right now they don't understand it at all, and that's okay, because when I got into this, I didn't even understand it. Starting out at 22 years old, I didn't really know what financial advisors or financial professionals did. I knew that I could get a job, selling insurance, and help some people and make money doing it. And then I'm sure we'll talk about this in another video about how it was making me feel empty, or I was feeling empty doing it until I discovered certain things. Back to this concept of retirement. And I know you said, I'm not trying to fault you for saying, retire at a normal age or a good age.
Well, I want to be able, and I would say I want to know that I am financially able to, but if I enjoy what I'm doing, I've watched my grandparents, my Mimi still works, and I feel like that has really inspired me to work as hard as I can in my lifetime. But that's what I mean. I just want to know that financially I'm prepared for when I am ready to retire.
And that's a much better way of putting it.
Yeah.
It is. And that's what I've discovered working with my clients, especially over the last few years, because most of them are not driven by money. So people who aren't driven by money, a lot of times they end up earning quite a bit of it because they're following it. What they're doing is they're following a set of skills that they have that they enjoy doing, and they found a way to use those skills to make an impact on the world. But that's not something that they feel the need to escape from. They're not thinking of, oh, when I'm 60, I have to escape this. When I ask them, when do you want to retire? They say, I've never really thought about it. And not in a way of they're putting their heads in the sand. It's just not relevant to them. And they don't say, I hear this every once in a while, and it bothers me. Somebody says, when asked when they want to retire, they say, as soon as possible. Right now, tomorrow. Maybe they're 30 or 40 or 50. Because that means that they're unhappy. Mm-hmm. they're not happy with how they're spending their day, with how they're living their lives. That's really, really sad. It's really sad. And I'm fortunate because I think I figured it out early, relatively early in life. I think a lot of people don't figure it out until after they've retired, the traditional sense of retirement. But to say, essentially what you said is you want choice. Mm-hmm. You want to have the power of choice. So it's not, I have to keep doing something I'm miserable doing because I can't afford not to. Which unfortunately that's the society we live in. I don't see that changing anytime soon, so we have to abide by that. But to say, I do or I don't want to do what I'm doing right now. Maybe so you discover something that it doesn't even exist right now in 10 years. And you say, and it just clicks. You say, that's what I'm meant to do. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And you light up when you talk about it. You get that fire burning inside of you. You want to have the option to go do it, not based on, hey, that's going to make me more money, but hey, that's going to give me a better quality of life. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to dread every single day going into work. And again, that's what I've discovered. It's choice. People want choice. They want freedom. They talk about it in different ways, and they might use different words, but that's what it is. It's choice and it's freedom to make your own decisions, and to not be tied to any outside sources that you don't want to be tied to.